Right. So as far as the Guidewire Billing Center itself is concerned, from a business analyst point of view, when we are working on the activity patterns, uh, we must be knowing about what are the data flow happens between the components and how what action that is to be performed. That's what today I'm explaining to you. So this is in as an example I'm taking for any reminder on the overdue payment or any reminder on the due payment which customer is supposed to pay. So for that, how the data flow happens between components or among components is what the session is all about. So first of all, we need to identify the components that are in the Guidewire billing in this particular situation. So billing engine is one component. At the same time, we have activity pattern engine as well. Next, we are having activity table followed by assignment engine and user interfaces. These are the major components that we see. Billing engine as a component we see to provide an action to detect the overdue of invoices because any customer has paid the premium earlier and which near to the due now. So we need to initiate an action to detect the overdue invoices so that we need to see the invoice details and all everything. When we are mentioning about the data that is being used and generated, invoice details will be mentioned. Invoice details has to be updated. When it comes to the activity pattern, then we are initiating, which is in activity pattern engine. We need to fetch the matching patterns. That is an action that is to be performed in activity pattern. And we are going to create activity pattern using the activity pattern details under the Guidewire billing is something that we do it. So for that, we have to update the activity pattern ID. Followed by this, we need to define some rules for activity pattern as well. So activity pattern ID as well as the rules, everything will be updated under the activity pattern engine. Next, one more component called activity table. Here we have to create an activity for the reminder for the customer if you want to remind the customer about the due date, etc. So we have to mention a different activity. For that, we need to have an activity ID as separate. And to whom this is being assigned, even though it's an auto process, we are instructing system to perform. So we need to define to whom this is being assigned to and when is the due date. Because normally before the due date, at least 15 days before, reminder will start sending reminders to the customer or to the policy holder. Okay, that's where generally this due date everything has to mention here. Next, when it comes to the assignment engine, normally assignment engine majorly provides and initiate the assigning activity. And the assigning to, as I told you, right, this is assigning to, this assigning to will be these people, right? So you are assigning to a billing specialist or it can be for a QA, right? So you are assigning them to them. So that billing specialist will be following of this. Finally, this has to be appeared on the user interface of the Guidewire billing that we are using because in the Guidewire billing application, under the user interface component, we have to display the new activity under the activity dashboard, wherein by creating the activity pattern for that. So these are the different data flow uh, happens among the components or between the components when we are working on the Guidewire billing. As an example, I have taken for reminder of the due payment to the customer or the policy holder whenever they want to pay the renewal or due date, right? So this is something one as a business analyst we must be aware of. This is what generally as a business analyst we must be known with. So because this detailing is always important, being a BA, we must be knowing so that we have to create activity patterns. So for that we can write user stories and all that anyway that I already discussed earlier, right? So because for every activity that is to be created under the functionality or a rule, so that user story we have to write. So that part I already covered, right? So based on the activity user story, we can even create this data flow between the components when we are creating the activity pattern in Guidewire Billing.